Welcome back to the program. So today we're going to talk first, at least, about some health issues and HHS Secretary RFK Jr. and how he is changing the medical establishment up on its end and going after Big Pharma. One of the things that he plans on doing is getting rid of television advertising. I've told you before that only 2 countries in the entire world allow advertising of pharmaceutical products and drugs on television and radio. That is the United States of America and New Zealand. And it looks like New Zealand is going to be the only one still running ads on television in the very near future. And so he sat down with a gentleman by the name of Gary Brecka, who is a health expert and biologist. And he discussed a lot of really interesting things. So we're going to kind of go through some of these things. And what I'll do is I'll play some clips, and then we can talk about the clip a little bit, and then we'll go from each one. So here we go.
The mainstream television networks, and some Roger Ailes told me one time that 75% of his advertising revenues on the evening news divisions were pharmaceutical ads.
I believe
75% of all ad revenue in the late evening news on Fox was all pharmaceutical. 75%.
that just by observation, just as a
I
consumer.
mean, you can watch it.
Yeah,
you can watch brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Pfizer.
If you
And you know what? Let me pause it right there because he's not wrong. You folks might remember this right here.
Pfizer. Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer. ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer. CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer. This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This Weather Report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer. And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer. Meet the Press Data Download brought to you by Pfizer. This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer on how to find the hidden sugars in the American family diet. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Isn't that sick? How twisted that is? All of media is brought to you by Big Pharma, and in particular, the biggest spenders are Pfizer. So anyway, let me continue with this discussion here.
eliminate big food and pharma from I mean, just if you
They'll
watch
be
the Super Bowl.
bankrupt.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it would have been Super Bowl ads.
those companies are doing that partially because the evening news is very attractive to drug companies because young people don't watch news. It's all older people, and those are their customers. They're people who are taking all this whole, arsenal, this battery of drugs, but they also do it to control content.
Yeah.
That's why you see defense contractors advertising on, Good Morning America. Nobody's going to buy, a Tomahawk missile on who's watching Good Morning America. But they advertise because they want to control the content. And if you look at, Anderson Cooper or, any of these, or Lester Holt or Jake Tapper, their salaries their paycheck is being paid by the network.
Right.
But their salaries are actually coming from pharmaceutical companies.
That's an important part. The networks may be paying for their salaries, but who's paying the network to be able to pay for those big absorbent salaries? Big Pharma.
And they know that.
Right.
And they know that they can't, that they got to toe the line and they got to say,
So there you have it. So you have all these prostitutes in the media that are having their salaries paid by the pharmaceutical companies. Do you really think they're going to be objective or impartial or dare say anything negative about vaccines, about lockdowns, about masks, about booster shots? Hell no. The whole system is rotten from the head down, and RFK Jr. is exposing it all.
frighten us all about infectious disease. They got to make us all do comply with the pharmaceutical mandates, and they're not giving us the real news. They're not asking the questions that they ought to be asking. There's no skepticism. And if you look at these news shows like 60 Minutes or even Anderson or Sanjay Gupta, from 20 years ago, they were saying, there's problems with this, with vaccines or these other drugs.
Right.
They will never do that today.
Nope. They certainly will not. And he goes on, he talks about even some more interesting stuff. So what he's basically saying is that the taxpayers are basically getting hit hard here. Because the other thing about these pharmaceutical ads that you have to understand is as the ads come and get created and all that, a lot of these companies are getting a tax deduction. A lot of these pharmaceutical companies work with the government and they get huge tax breaks. So who's paying for those tax breaks? You, me, us, okay? So we're paying for these ads that are poisoning us, basically, right? How many times have you seen one of these ads and they talk about all these glowing, wonderful things, and then in the little print it says, you may die by next week if you continue using this product. But they say it real fast, and they make it look like, it's all, rose petals and tulips. But it's poison. And they know it's poison. We've seen it. But yet, they continue to push it on us. He's going to stop that. Then he goes on to talk a little bit more about this. This is how the other part of this goes. Listen to this.
The other thing about pharmaceutical ads is the company gets a tax deduction on them. We're paying for the ads and we're paying for the product. And so,
I mean, when you think about that, it's just, it's mind-numbing. We're paying for the ads and we're paying for the product.
We're paying for them to become trillionaires while they kill us. Okay? Put that into perspective.
And
my agency gets the bill.
And we're paying for all the diseases that product is causing.
Yeah.
And so it's different than any other kind of product, and it's regulated differently. And those regulations, a drug company does not have carte blanche from FAA to advertise any product it wants, and there are conditions that we can place on it. And those are some of the things that we're looking at.
Okay, then he goes on to talk even more, and he talks about the medical journals. Now, this is really important. During COVID, the end-all, be-all, the top echelon of we're right and you're wrong and anybody else needs to be censored was what? The Lancet, right? JAMA. What's the other one? There's another one. The New England Journal of Medicine. All of these. They are basically, the end-all, be-all, the king, the queen, the jack, the ace, okay, the best cards of the deck, and they control the entire messaging. Not anymore. He's now not going to print. Okay, he's not going to print in these scientific journals. So what does that mean? That means that the NIH is now going to become independent for once. And the NIH will put out its own purviews and statements and studies and examinations and all of these things. And forget the Lancet, forget the New England Journal of Medicine, forget JAMA. It's the new sheriff in town. His name is RFK Jr., and he's changing it all. And it's driving the left insane. So listen to what he says here. Is it in this one? Yeah, I think it's in this one.
The other thing about pharmaceutical ads is the company gets a tax deduction.
Okay, no, that was the wrong one. So it's this one right down here is where he's talking about. Here we go.
And if you know there's going to be no effort at replicating your study, you have a huge incentive to change.
Oh, no question.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to devote probably 20% of NIH's budget to replication. Every study has to be replicated. Wow. We're going to publish the peer review for the first time. Mm-hmm. We're probably going to stop publishing in Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, and those other journals because they're all corrupt. Mm-hmm. And even the heads of those journals, like Marsh Angle, who for 20 years...
I talk about in Preserving Liberty how the scientific community worked with the government and they were all corrupt, and they based it on the Lancet, they based it on JAMA, they based it on all of these corrupt organizations that are all getting paid from Big Pharma to print out what they want them to print out. The whole thing, it is rotten from the top to the bottom, 100%.
Was the head of the New England Journal of Medicine, says that we no longer are a science journal, we are a vessel for pharmaceutical propaganda.
No kidding.
Because
Wow.
they control the journals. They buy the preprints, right? Which is, and they finance you. If you want to publish in a journal, you have to pay $10,000 to get the study published. So the pharmaceutical company concocts a study that shows the outcome that they want, that statins work or that SSRIs work, you know, and then they'll publish that.
Sing
They
my
pay to
language.
get that published.
Yeah.
And they order reprints from the journal. The reprints, as you know, are it's a 5 or 6 page document that has the logo of the journal on it. They sell them for enormous profits, and then they give them to the pharmaceutical reps,
To go meet the
hot-looking
doctors.
girls, and
So here's what happens. The pharmaceutical companies hire, good-looking young people, salespeople, and those salespeople representing that drug go in and they meet with these doctors. And they tell the doctor, based on our studies in the Lancet and the JAMA and the New England Journal and all this other garbage that's corrupt and lying, that's being paid for by the pharmaceutical companies so that they say those things, then those pharmaceutical reps go into these hospitals, okay, and they talk to these doctors and they go, check it out. Here's this new drug. It does X, Y, and Z. Start administering it and giving it out to your patients, okay? Do about 500 prescriptions in the next 30 days, and then I'll come back and I'll give you a big check, and I'll give you a cutback of it. That's what's been going on in the pharmaceutical industry for years. Thank God RFK Jr. is the HHS, okay? Seriously, listen to this. He explains how they work.
this profits, and then they give them to the pharmaceutical reps.
To
You know,
go
the
meet the
hot-looking
doctors.
girls and hot-looking guys who go to the doctor's office, take them out to lunch, give them the preprint and say this product works. If why don't you prescribe it 500 times during the next month, and then I'll be back here to see
Yeah.
you, right? With all these kind of implied promises of what's going to happen, and that's how this system works.
That is just astounding.
And so what we're going to do is change the system and say you can't. Richard Horton, who was the head of the Lancet, who really disgraced himself during COVID with the the Lancet letter and all this.
I remember.
But he says the same thing. He says, we are no longer science journals. We are about promoting pharmaceutical products, and that's what we do. So unless these journals change dramatically, we are going to stop NIH scientists from publishing there, and we're going to create our own journals in-house in each of the institutes.
And they will become the preeminent journals because
And they're going to become the preeminent journals.
that's-
Because if you get NIH funding, it is anointing you as a good, legitimate scientist.
Isn't that interesting? So he's basically going to tell the scientific community, Big Pharma, and all the rest of them, you are liars, you're deceitful, you're corrupt, you paid off government, you paid off politicians, you paid off doctors, you paid off hospitals, you paid off biologists, virologists, you've paid everybody off. But it's now over. You're not paying us off anymore. We're taking it back. We're getting rid of these commercials on television and radio. And more importantly, we're going to put out real science, right? Trust the science? Well, we're going to trust real science coming from a real National Institute of Health and National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NIAID. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because it's important. It's very important. And, a lot of people don't think about it, but the bottom line is he wants to make us healthier, okay? And it doesn't matter that he's a Democrat or that he's pro-choice. That doesn't matter. What matters is the results. He cares about the people. He has had a lifelong love affair with healthcare and doing whatever he could to sue companies for lead, suing companies for pesticides, suing companies for dyes and seed oil. I mean, whatever he's been doing for 50-something years of his life. This guy knows it all. And thank God. Thank God he is in the position that he is. And I do believe when it's all said and done, he will have been not only the greatest Kennedy ever in history, but more importantly, the most consequential Health and Human Services Secretary in American history. Mark it down, put it in the bank, cash the check, because it's going to happen. Okay? Next, let's move on to something a little bit different. So President Trump is not playing around. Okay? He's not playing around with Harvard anymore. He is now not just going after Harvard, but now he is actually doing a government review of all of Harvard's professors and people that work for the school, their board of directors, all of it. He is looking at terminating all of Harvard. And if any part of Harvard is getting money, it's subject to Trump's approval. Because now he has decided to not just pause completely the ability of all students to go to Harvard that are not in the United States of America, which, by the way, the Kennedy School at Harvard will lose 60% of its students are from outside the United States. That, in and of itself, is a travesty. But then again, these are international students coming in from China and elsewhere and all around the country, learning at our schools, at our expense, taking this knowledge and going back there and implementing it into, I don't know, the People's Liberation Army of China and the CCP and creating bioweapons and everything else. Done. We are done with that. Trump administration pauses all student visa interviews, will expand social media vetting. Trump administration is expected to halt all student visa interviews and will be expanding its social media vetting process, according to the State Department cable obtained by Politico. The Trump administration is escalating its fight against anti-American universities such as Harvard. Last month, it was reported that the Trump administration revoked the visas of approximately 4,000, thank you, Marco, foreign students in their first 100 days. Almost all of these students have some sort of criminal background. Trump administration is weighing requiring all foreign students applying to study in the United States to undergo social media vetting, a significant expansion of previous such efforts, according to the cable from Politico. In preparation for such required vetting, the administration is ordering U.S. embassies and consular sections to pause scheduling new interviews for such student visa applicants, according to Politico, and of course signed off on by the greatest Secretary of State in U.S. history already, Marco Rubio. If the administration carries out the plan, it could severely cut down student visa processing. It also could hurt many universities who rely heavily on foreign students to boost their financial coffers. Sorry, Columbia. Sorry, Harvard. Sorry, Stanford. Sorry, Yale. No more. Okay? The gravy train is over. And then what else does it say? Effective immediately, in preparation for an expansion of required social media screening and vetting, consular sections should not add any additional students or exchange visitors and visa appointment capacity until further notice is issued. We will anticipate in the coming days. And that was from Secretary Rubio's office. So this is wonderful. We are finally going to basically not just allow anyone into the country. We're not going to just allow anyone into our colleges and universities, right? These are a lot of criminals. These are a lot of bad kids that want to infiltrate the United States of America, and they want to cause harm. A lot of them are terrorists. A lot of them are terrorist sympathizers. Some of them are close to terrorist groups like Hamas and everything else. Some of them, most of them, are anti-Semitic. Why the hell do we want to educate them? Why not allow other students in the United States to take those places? And quite frankly, I'm not a fan of the Ivy League colleges. I've already said that. I would love to see them all be shut down if you want to know the truth. And why don't we just have trade schools, okay? I said it on yesterday's show, and I'm sticking with that. Because I think trade schools are better for America. I truly do. Because a student that goes through a trade school is going to learn a specific skill, which is going to keep them out of crime, which is going to make them advance in their career, especially if they're good at it. And eventually, if they're smart enough, they'll open up their own business, and then they can hire more people. And guess what? we can have even more people. What do we want? More law professors? What are they going to do? Who are they going to hire? No one. They're going to get a job. They're going to get tenure. They're going to sit there on their fat ass for 35, 40 years, and they're going to turn out Marxists. No thank you. Okay? No thank you. Next. So it looks like the Washington Post is moving to the right. Well, at least that's what they say. We'll see if it actually happens. Bezos' Washington Post has given staff an ultimatum as it pushes them out. Basically, folks that have been there 15, 20 years on the editorial board, if you're left-leaning, if you're a radical extremist, if you're anti-Trump, you are being given a pretty nice severance package to get out. Kind of like what Trump was doing to get rid of the people from the administrative state. Well, Bezos is doing the same thing. And he point blank said that he's going to give these very lucrative buyouts to these folks. The opinion desk was told the buyouts were meant to let staffers make a clear-eyed decision on whether they want to be part of the new direction for the Washington Post's opinion section. According to the New York Slimes, there's another one that needs to be done under as well. Bezos' announcement and has plans to, quote, lean into the traditionally conservative values of free markets and personal liberties. Hey, I don't know. God bless them for doing it. I hope it happens. We need more and more of these prostitutes to not be prostitutes anymore. They need to be objective, real journalists. You know, someone like, I don't know, moi. So we'll see what happens. All right, two more and then we're done. So I normally wouldn't cover this because I really don't care about little itty bitty ditty tootsie roll ditty whatever the hell his name is. But Barack Obama is now being named in Diddy's sex trafficking trial along with pop star Usher. Singer Usher and former President Barack Hussein Soetoro Marshall Davis Obama were both named in testimony during the sex trafficking trial of rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs on Monday. Several other A-lister names also have come up, as those called to testify spoke about the parade of top celebrities, politicians, and music industry people who have attended Diddy's events and parties and who otherwise had some connection to Diddy and the matter. Along with Usher and Barack Obama, names included Biggie Smalls, who unfortunately is no longer with us, and Jennifer Lopez were also mentioned. As for Obama, Combs' former assistant David James testified that Diddy used to take pills shaped like Barack Obama's face. And he added that Diddy traveled with a bag containing 25 to 30 types of different drugs. During her testimony, Danity Kane singer Dawn Richard claimed that singer Usher was in attendance at a dinner where Diddy punched Cassie Ventura in the stomach as they argued. Richard added that Usher was there along with Jimmy Iovine. He's I think a record producer. Someone named Ne-Yo. I have no idea who that is. I would assume a rapper. And then Kalina Harper and two other of Diddy's assistants. Other celebs mentioned so far during the 3-week trial include rapper Kid Cudi, who was said to have attended some of Diddy's freak-off parties, rapper Notorious B.I.G., singer Rihanna, Suge Knight, Britney Spears, Prince, and actor Michael B. Jordan and Bruce Willis. Other names linked to Diddy's freak-off parties include actor Will Smith and Ashton Kutcher. Indeed, it has previously been reported that Diddy had enough dirt to, quote, hang half of Hollywood. Wow, interesting. He's a scumbag. He truly is. He's a tyrant. He's a woman abuser. He's a user. He uses intimidation tactics. And I hope he goes to jail. I truly do. I hope he goes to jail for 150 to 200 years and dies in prison. That's what I hope. And, you know, I'm not paying attention to the trial or anything like that. I don't care. I mean, I heard about the Tootsie Roll thing. That was kind of fun. But for my thought here is it's got to be the tape. I mean, does it really matter? All these people and bottles of baby oil and lube and dildos and all? No, it's the tape. It's this scumbag dragging his girlfriend by her hair through a hallway in a Las Vegas hotel and kicking the living hell out of her over and over and over again. He is a monster, and this monster should be locked up. And I don't know, if the jury is going to look at that tape, I don't see how you can't convict him. But anyway, I'm not on the jury. Anyway, last story. Ready? Great news. Well, maybe the Doge cuts haven't come in as far as being codified yet, but that doesn't mean that what they have done with Doge and continue to do with Doge is, not for anything at all. There is definitely a lot of momentum here. Social Security officially removed you ready for this? 12.3 million individuals listed at age 120 plus. Imagine that. Unreal. Social Security has removed from its rolls 12.3 million individuals listed as 120 years or older, according to the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Now remember, who's also part of Social Security? Pretty simple, Dr. Oz. And Dr. Oz, again, was appointed by President Trump. So you're not going to have any resistance in this. The discrepancies in the Social Security figures and the alarming ages of some of the individuals. Now remember, that's just the 120. You had people that were 300 years old, 160 years old, 210 years old. I mean, it's unbelievable. As a result, in March, Doge began to update the American people on the massive cleanup being done at Social Security. In a March 18th update, Doge said that Social Security had marked 3.2 million Social Security number holders aged 120 or older as deceased, warning that there was still a lot more to come. Over 1 month ago later, on April 24th, Doge provided another update revealing that a stunning 11 million individuals more listed at age 120 were now marked as deceased. And in the most recent update, delivered just last week, Doge revealed that a total of 12.3 million individuals listed as age 120 plus were officially marked as deceased in the system. Some complex cases remain, such as individuals with 2+ different birth dates on file, but they will also be investigated in a follow-up effort. We are also looking into people from 105 to 110, Doge also added. So you've got, this genius who is running Doge, and he hired a whole bunch of number crunchers and geniuses, and they went in there, and they're just clearing out all the fraud. Now, hopefully these people are going to be prosecuted. I think eventually they probably will when Doge is already done and they have their full report of crimes committed and everything else. I know Pam Bondi has signaled that she's waiting for that report whenever it is, maybe in 6 months or whatever it might be. And she is saying that she would prosecute from that. But we've got to get some of these cuts done too. They've got to codify these cuts into law. But even if they don't, let's just say the rhinos sit on their hands and they don't want to cut any waste because they're scum and they just don't care about the deficit and they don't care about future generations. It was still worth it, folks. 12.3 voters gone, 120 years. Do you know how many fake votes that could have been in the 7 swing states with 93 electoral votes? Only need maybe 400,000 or 500,000 of those people. Stick them in Nevada, stick them in Arizona, stick them in Georgia. I mean, 12.3, I don't want to do the math right now in front of everyone, but divide that by the 7 states, it's probably a pretty darn big number. So imagine if they dispersed through the swing states 1.5 million, 2 million, whatever that number might be, onto the voter rolls. We've eliminated 12.3 potential fraudulent votes. That's how I look at it. I don't care about the fact that these 120-year-old people that don't exist were getting a paycheck. Yeah, that's horrible, that's bad, and those people should be prosecuted for cashing those checks. Yes, but I look at it from a standpoint of election integrity. Everything I see and do is through the lens of saving our elections. Because without that, it doesn't matter. Spending could go up, spending could go down, this, that, doesn't matter. Without election integrity, we got nothing. And so I'm really glad to see that 12 million people have been removed from the Social Security and cannot be put onto voter rolls in 2026 or 2028. We are moving in the right direction. The first time in history, 50%, the first time ever in history, say that America is on the right track. And yes, I agree with that. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.